The Dynasty Podcast is a free-flowing conversation that occasionally touches on mature subjects. You were warned. The Dynasty Podcast is brought to you by Jumbo Donuts. Get a delicious blueberry muffin, bacon and cheese sandwich, or the Jumbo Donuts world-famous chocolate-covered donut. Don't be a fool. Start the day off right at your local Jumbo Donuts.
It's time to play the music. It's time to light the lights. It's time to meet the assholes on the Dynasty tonight. That's right. It's time to put on makeup. It's time to dress up right. It's time to raise the curtain on the Dynasty tonight. Why do we always come here? I guess we'll never know. It's like some kind of torture to have to watch the show. And now let's get things started. Why don't you get things started? It's time to get things started on the most sensational, inspirational, celebrational, sexuational. This is what we call the Dynasty Podcast. And now, coming to you live from Riverdale Studios, your host, the one, the only, Eric Costanza!
Greetings and salutations. Welcome to episode number 12 of the Jumbo Donuts Dynasty Podcast. This is your host and commissioner, Eric Costanza, airing live from Riverdale Studios. I hope and trust that everyone had a wonderful Thanksgiving. I'm sure as hell did. The league is just plugging along. We got 3 weeks left in the goddamn regular season. Other than that, I really don't have any more shit to report from an administrative standpoint, so let's just stop dicking around and get right to it.
Now let's take a look into last week's results. Who kicked some ass? Who sucked?
Oh God, oh my God.
Week 12 started with 3 Turkey Day games and ended with a Monday night game which affected the results of 4 of the 6 matchups. Week 12 also saw 2 games decided by 1 point, but in the Jumbo Donuts Game of the Week, we had Brutal Deluxe up against the Riverdale Scoopers. This was a relatively low-scoring game until the Monday night affair when Brutal's new quarterback he acquired right at the trade deadline, quarterback Drew Brees, completely went off, throwing for 363 yards, 4 touchdowns, a rushing touchdown. It led all players with 44 fantasy points. Along with tight end Jimmy Graham's 20 points, Brutal dismantled the Scoopers, scoring the most points in the league for the 3rd time this year, winning 130-93. The next game saw the Rockdalian Senators up against Handiquacks. Coach Zach Palucha got 0 points from not 1 but 2 starters. But when you play the Senators, you can still pretty much win with that, and that's exactly what happened. Coach DeYoung was in Disney World during this matchup, hoping that the magic of Disney would rub off on his terrible team. Well, that didn't happen, as Handiquacks tight end, Giants tight end there, Jake Ballard, got 4 points on Monday night, giving Handiquacks just enough for the 1-point win, 74-73. Will's pathetic breakdown record, I haven't announced the breakdown record in a while, I thought I would do so now. The Will's breakdown record is now at an all-time Dynasty low. 10-122. I repeat, 10-122. The next game was Yellow Peril versus Negro Damas. This game also was decided by 1 point in favor of Coach Kim's Peril, 123 to 122. If you didn't stay up late for this one, then you probably thought this was more of a not a blowout, but a pretty handed victory by Peril, but that's not what happened. Whitey West Welker led Peril with 23 points, while Negroes' Mark Ingram just couldn't muster up enough points on Monday night. Losing by 1 point absolutely blows, especially if D'Angelo Williams, who ended with 69 yards, could have fallen forward for an extra yard or two. If the Broncos defense could have maybe got one more sack during the game, the margin of victory or the margin of losing is just so slim in the Dynasty. This is Negro's second loss this year by 1 point. I wonder if Coach Phil still doesn't believe in those fantasy gods. The next game was Hong Kong Cavs versus the Heritage Park Hunters. Hunters won 104 to 90, and the score was probably closer than the game as Coach Stacy continues his winning ways. The next game was Soul Glow versus the Iron Dogs. This game ended up being pretty close. At one point on Sunday, Coach Tavaleri said on the Gamecast that if he loses to the guards, he'll be on suicide watch. But Soul Glow's Cedric Benson, Michael Bush, and Chris Johnson would not let that happen as they defeated the douchebag guards 94 to 82. On a side note, the guards decided to start Josh Cribbs, the third wide receiver on the Cleveland Browns, over Jason Avant. With Jeremy Maclin out on the Eagles, Avant was the number 2 receiver on the Eagles, going up against the horrible Patriots secondary. Avant ended the game with 17 points. Cribbs, 0. This move is the difference between a win and a loss. That's interesting considering that co-coach Jeff Gard said that he's one of the better coaches in the league. And the last game of Week 12 was a dandy. Bubba Gump Shrimp versus those Amber Alerts. It's official. Mark it down, bitches. Coach Johnny C. is the king of Monday night. At this point, if he needs 70 points to win on Monday Night Football, he'll get 170. The some bitch. Bubba Gump had a 2-point lead heading into Monday night. Bub had Hakeem Nicks, John had Victor Cruz. Now, we all know that Nicks is the much better real-life wide receiver than Cruz. If you were starting a real-life NFL squad right now, and you could choose between the two, you'd obviously take Nicks over Cruz. It's really not that hard. But in fantasy football, it's a different story. Cruz had 157 yards and 2 touchdowns, while Nicks only had 87 yards, leading the Alerts to the big win, 124 to 108. Coach Johnny C. has an interesting method regarding the Monday night affairs. When the game is up in the air, and it's really all dependent on that Monday nighter, he checks his team right before going to sleep, nestles into bed, doesn't watch a goddamn second of the game, wakes up the next morning, probably with a stiff morning erection, then checks his computer for the results. It's been pretty much spot on, 100% success rate for the crazy bastard. In Coach Bub's post-game press conference, he summed it all up by simply saying, "Fuck Victor Cruz." Now, as we take a look at the standings here, things are really starting to get figured out. North Riverdale Division, for the first time in, I want to say, probably about a month, probably like 4 to 5 games, the Riverdale Scoopers have been dethroned. I am currently in the tide for the North Riverdale Division lead, but the Amber Alerts have caught up to the Scoopers, and with their point total, they are in the lead. Amber Alerts and Scoopers are currently at 9-3, and right behind us are 2 teams, the Heritage Park Hunters and Yellow Peril, at 8-4, only a game behind both of us. Hunters does have the points over Peril, but both the Hunters and Peril have more points than the Scoopers. So with 3 weeks remaining, there's definitely a 4-team race for the North Riverdale Division. In the South Riverdale Division, we have a different story. Brutal Deluxe has now gained a 3-game lead in the South with a win this week against the Iron Dogs.